They know that I've sort of been either sat or stood around here sorting out the IT, and I've always felt very safe doing that. Although I was feeling a little bit anxious this morning with Dr. Julia Harris, because she said that she always checks males testicular regions. So PPE next year. So my presentation today is entitled Fings Ain't What They Used to Be. And as this is now actually my 10th appearance at this conference, I thought it might be interesting to just look back over the changes that have taken place within infection prevention here at UHS. Before we actually do that though, I think it might be beneficial for you to perhaps find out a little bit more about me and my background. Now, they give you a little bit about me in the who's who in your pack, and that is factually correct, but it doesn't really explain how I came to be working in infection prevention. Now, I guess some of you have, or all of you have watched this program, and it's been very successful. Who do you think you are? And of course it's all about researching your family trees, and for a lot of people that's become quite a popular pastime. And it is amazing what you can actually find out about your heritage, and for some people it can even prove quite a shock. You know, who would have thought that Danny Dyer was related to royalty? But there have been also other celebrities who have actually found that their links with past generations, they find that also the profession that they're in also has links back through the generations. I think it was Mary Berry who found out, I think it was like a great-grandfather or something, he was also a baker and confectioner. Now, it must be said that I'm normally a very modest person, and I don't really like to go around blowing my own trumpet, but I found out that whilst I was researching my family tree, that there were really certain dates in history that have become actually quite synonymous with events that have quite literally changed the world. And they have also actually in turn have links with me working in infection prevention. Now, the real first big date, 14th of October 1066, the Battle of Hastings. Now, history for some reason seems to focus on William the Conqueror, but my research actually turned up a very interesting fact. You see, the very first Appling was actually a nobleman who accompanied William over from Normandy. And Baron Etienne de Appeline, he also actually appears to have been involved in infection prevention. You see, recently discovered parchments show that the Baron was constantly reminding the archers under his command that once they'd drawn their arrows, they should never attempt to put them back in the quiver. You see, for me, that just gives me so much pride that one of my forefathers was concerned with sharp safety. I'm sure he would have been all for a safer arrow system if there had been one available. I think one of his sayings has also become part of our vocabulary. You be careful with that, you could poke somebody's eye out. You see, I find it ironic that this great man nearly didn't appear on the Bayeux Tapestry, because the embroiderer who was responsible for his achievements, she actually went off sick with an incident with a tapestry needle. Now, history doesn't actually record whether they followed this old document, but because experts are still examining this document, and there are some questions regarding its authenticity. They're actually arguing as to whether boots stopped elastoplast in the 11th century. Now, for over 500 years, the Appling line didn't really throw up anything particularly interesting. There was the odd incident of being put in the stocks for drinking too much homemade cider. But the next date is the 16th of September 1620. And this has historical importance because this was the date that the Pilgrim Fathers set out from Plymouth to settle in America. Now, one of my ancestors should have actually been on that boat. Now, my birthday is the 15th of September, which coincidentally was also the birthday of my great, and there's several more greats, Grandad Stephen. He was actually on the original list of pilgrims who were chosen to go and explore this new world in America. Now, for his birthday, his family made him a new tunic, and he was so proud of this new outfit that he decided to wear it for the voyage the next day. But Uncle Stephen had to, or Grandad Stephen actually had to walk through the dirty streets of Plymouth, and he had to share an ox cart ride with some pox-ridden residents. And on arrival at the harbour, he promptly slipped up on something that was apparently a Type 6. Now maybe that's where the saying pride goes before a fall, but I feel sorry for Bristol, don't you? Anyone here from Bristol? Just to be associated with a stool chart, you know. There's several other places I could think of that could have been named after it, but there we are. But you see, when he arrived at the boat, the organiser of the trip promptly told him that he couldn't go and turned him away, because he reminded him that they just brought in a tunic policy, and it stated that all tunics had to be covered whilst travelling. Who knows? If Uncle Stephen had actually followed policy, or Grandad Stephen had actually followed policy, maybe the symbol of America might not have been a bald eagle, it could have been a bold applin. But such was his disappointment that Grandad Stephen, knowing that his hairstyle would guarantee him entry, became a monk at Buckfast Abbey. Unfortunately, history doesn't actually record whether it was in fact my relative that came up with the recipe for Buckfast tonic wine. I guess as well that he didn't actually stick to his vow of chastity, because how else did the Applin line continue? The trail of the Applin line then goes very cold for another couple of 100 years. And then interestingly, the date, the 28th of September 1928, actually brings another Applin family connection. No, I'm not related to Dr. Alexander Fleming. But of course, the discovery of penicillin and Alexander Fleming are always linked. Now, as I said, I'm not related to Dr. Fleming, but my great-uncle Stephen was actually at St Mary's Hospital Medical School at the same time as Dr. Fleming. And Dr. Fleming was actually carrying out this really groundbreaking research. Now, I know this has actually been recorded because there was immense pride in the Applin clan when he became the first Applin to actually ever go to medical school. What they didn't realise is that he wasn't there as a student, but he was there as a lab cleaner. I need to tell you that when Dr. Fleming left the lab in August 1928 to go on holiday, he actually asked Uncle Stephen to tidy up the lab whilst he was away. But Uncle Stephen wasn't really that conscientious, and he didn't actually follow up on the request. Because of course if he had have done, then Dr. Fleming wouldn't have returned to his bench after all that time and found that his cultures of staphylococci that he'd left stacked up on a bench in the corner of his lab had actually grown this mould that he would later go on to perfect as penicillin. Now, Dr. Fleming went on to win the Nobel Prize. Uncle Stephen went on to become a drag artist in the London music halls, acting as a trailblazer for the likes of Danny LaRue, Lily Savage and Mrs Brown. Although Uncle Stephen did actually go on to benefit from Dr. Fleming's discovery after seeing this popular advert of the day. And so that brings me to another important date, 30th of August 2007, the day that I actually joined the infection prevention team. Now, prior to this, I had worked in retail jewellery, and actually it got me thinking that I did have some links with infection prevention there, because they actually made us put in a hand washing sink, because one of the tasks that I used to do in the jewellers was to pierce ears. And so I had to carry out some cleaning of the area with some stirrettes, and then of course hand washing was also very important. And then I was involved with emergency alarm call centres, and even there was some infection prevention involvement, because we started putting alerts on people that had MRSA, so that if they had to be taken into hospital, we would give that information to the actual ambulance crews. But here we go, 30th of August 2007, and a day that I remember very well because it was a bank holiday Monday, so I didn't even have to come into the office. Result. It also took me a little while to understand some of the phrases that I kept hearing in the office. For a long time I thought they were talking about cauliflowers, when it was actually coliforms. Prophylaxis, that was one that really confused me. I thought they were talking about prophylactics, and I think they're more commonly known as condoms. And I thought that's a totally different form of infection prevention. I was even more confused when they were saying about checking packaging as to whether they were single use or not. One of the things I did find out was how much paper the team generated. This was the desk that they gave me when I started in my role as audit coordinator. But anyway, now for the serious bit. You see, over the last 10 years, we have actually worked together as a team to develop a number of databases to store and report on all the data that we actually collect on the various infections, and in turn that has significantly reduced the amount of paper that we have within our office. Calls to the team, they're no longer actually written down anywhere, they all are recorded electronically. And we also now have a system in place where we're able to actually identify patients that have infection alerts, so that checks can really be made to ensure that they're being managed as per the appropriate policy. And of course, more importantly, any advice given by the team about a patient can also be viewed so that inquiries are managed consistently. We also no longer have a shelf full of folders containing clearance information for MRSA patients. They're all held on a database, and we can also even see the amount of clear screens that patients have just at the click of a button. The management also of outbreaks has also changed, where once everything was all written down on paper, they are now all recorded electronically. And we were pleased to be able to submit this poster to the Infection Prevention Society National Conference in 2014. I thought it was quite interesting when John Otter was presenting, because he actually said that when he joined the team, their infection rates went up. I'm pleased to say that when I joined the team, since I've been there, the infection rates have actually gone down. And as you've seen, the rates for MRSA and C. diff have fallen quite dramatically since 2007. Would that have actually happened if I hadn't have joined the team? Well, I know that it actually would have, because there's been so much hard work done by the infection prevention team, but also you yourselves, the Link Staff Network, in promoting the good hand hygiene and all the other focus months that have taken place over these last 10 years. So, something else though that has dropped quite dramatically since I have been there is actually the number of members in the team. Now this was only taken a few years ago. Well, you know, they're all gone. I guess really that I think they were perhaps intimidated by the 1,000 years of infection experience really that I bring to the team. So it does turn out that infection prevention is in my DNA, and I just hope that in another 1,000 years, when the infection prevention office looks like this and the infection prevention team look like this, that there will still be an Applin connection in infection prevention, and that they will also be saying that things ain't what they used to be. Thank you.